Hello and welcome to Stender Painting. I'm your host, Jimmy Stender. In today's video I'll show you how I paint a Plague Marine for the Death Guard. This particular Marine was a commission job for me. It's for a kill team. So it was quite a fun challenge to paint for me. I'm not used to painting 40k miniatures, but I hope that will change in the future. But anyways, let's get to it. Alright, let's begin. I would like to start by telling you that no shade of Death Guard green is the same. This model has been cast in Death Guard green, but not undercoated. This one is the one we're going to paint, and it has been undercoated in Death Guard green. This nerdling here has been painted in Death Guard green. And as you can hopefully tell, they are not the same shade of Death Guard green. So what we are going to do is start by painting with Death Guard green. It may seem redundant, but you will notice a difference because the spray and the paint are not the same, as I just told you. So yeah, I would like to start by painting all the areas that's going to be Death Guard green with Death Guard green. Okay, I've given the pot a good shake and added some Death Guard green to my palette. Now I'm just going to thin it with some water. Something like this. I'm going to clean my brush and we are ready to paint. Now I'm using my regiment brush for this, from the Army Painter. And what I'm going to do is, as I said before, I'm going to paint every area that's going to be Death Guard green. But I'm not touching the shoulder pads because we're going to give them a different color later on this video. So just block it all in. And it doesn't really matter if you hit anything that's not supposed to be Death Guard green. We will paint those up later anyways. So just, yeah, plug it all in, take your time and have some fun with this. And now we have the shade of Death Guard green that we want. Next up I'm going to paint all the trim, and from this I'm using Balthasar Gold. Now I know there is gold in the name, but to me it looks way more like bronze. So perfect for our needs. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you might have noticed there's a hole in the base. That's for the nurgling. I just avoided putting it there until I've painted the bottom details. So this might take a while, but just do it slowly and easy. And if you get paint somewhere it's not supposed to be, you can always clean up with Death Guard green. But don't worry too much about that right now, we're going to clean up later anyways. But there's a lot of trim, especially on the shoulder pads. So just apply a nice even base coat of Balthasar Gold. And if you feel like the color is not covering enough, then just let it dry and add a second thin coat. It is much better to add several thin coats than one thick coat that might spoil details. Okay, I did primarily talk about trims, but I've painted everything I would like to see in bronze. So various bits and pieces. Now it's time to paint up the rest of the metallics, and for this I'm using lead belcher. And same procedure as before, just take your time, go through the model, see what's metal, what's not, and yeah, paint it however you like really. I've finished base coating the silver details. I have been a bit messy about it, but that's okay, we're going to clean it all up later. Now I'm grabbing some non-oil and shading all the silver details, and the silver details only. I have a small layer brush ready for the more hard to reach places where I've painted silver. So just shade all the silver, as I said, and let it dry for about, I'd say, 30 minutes. I have given the shade plenty of time to dry. Next up is all the black stuff, such as the leather and the tubes and, well, everything you want to be black. Now, before I do this, if the model has any chainmail and this model does not, I would at this stage dry brush it with some Necron compound. But now I'm moving on to the black, and I'm using Corvus black and applying it with a small layer brush from Citadel. For example, there is a large tube on his back, and his belt if you can reach it, and small tubes around here, and yeah. Just take your time, go over the model and paint everything you want to be black, well, black. Following that, we are going back to a fan favorite, the Death Guard Green. And this is to clean up the model and fixing all the mistakes I've made. I'm sure you haven't made a single one, but I for sure have. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some, well, Death Guard Green and going around the model, fixing all the errors I've made. So we are ready to shade the entire model afterwards. When you're done cleaning the model, it's time to make him, well, dirty again, and we are using Agrath Earthshade for this. I'm using this all over the model. It's important that we hit everything that we've painted so far, but it's just easier to make it all over the model. So just grab your shade brush and get to it. And when you're done, give it about 30 minutes to dry. This will not only give it definition, but it will also make it look dirty. The shade is dry and he's looking pretty grim already. Next up I'm going to paint his horns, or rather horn. There's only one horn on this particular miniature, and that's the one protruding from his shoulder pad. I've added some sandy dust to my palette, and then I'll just add a base coat of it on the horn. And remember, 2 thin coats are better than 1 thick coat. So paint it on, let it dry, and judge if you want to add another coat. And once it's dry and you're happy with the coverage, we can add a shade of Seraphim Sepia. I'm taking it directly from the pot. It doesn't matter if it pools a little at the bottom, that will only make it darker down there, so that's perfect. And finally I'm grabbing some Terminator Stone to make a very gentle dry brush. I'll wipe most of it off on a tissue, and then I'll just very gently focus on the top of the horn. It's better to be gentle, so the color will be soft. You could always add up layers if you want it to be more stark in contrast. When you are satisfied with the horns, it's time to do some layering, and I've added some Death Guard Green to my palette once again. And this time I'm going all over the model where I want it to be Death Guard Green, and paint it except in the recesses. So for example right here, I prefer to use a small layer brush for this. And don't worry, we will make him look dirty and grim again later on in this video. But when we do it like this, the shading will be only in the recesses. which is what we want for now. It took me a while, but now the layering is complete, and when it's looking bright again, we can now move on to highlighting. And for this I'm using some watered down open camo. And well, I say watered down, always water down your paints, always. Now this is just to go around the model and highlight each and every corner and high point, and just like this, for example. So this might take a while once more, but it's definitely worth it. It will really make the model pop, so to speak. Well, I've finished highlighting with the Ogrian camo. I might have skipped over it a bit fast in the last stage, but there really is a lot to highlight. I've highlighted each and every panel on his armor, and every crack and hole in his armor, and his eyes, and you know, every edge and high point. Next I'm going to do some extreme highlighting, and you don't really have to do this, it is completely optional, but maybe you want your unit champion to stand out, or your characters, or maybe you just want to do this all over all your models. It's up to you really. But now I'm adding some screaming skulls in the mix. Like so. And next up I'll add some water. Clean my brush. And then once more highlight, but only the most extreme edges and points, to make it really pop. Also, when you're highlighting, it's not unusual to hold your models in every way, kind and shape. I'm usually holding it like this when I highlight certain areas, and it's really alright. There's no true or wrong way to do this. Whatever makes you most comfortable, I guess. You can also, when you highlight, use the side of your brush. Instead of painting on directly, use the side. Like so. Anyways, I'll go around the model, find the most extreme edges and highlight those. Just a little dot here and there. When you're happy with the result, it's time to do some more highlighting. Yay! And this time it's the bronze, and I'm using Liberator Gold for this. So once more, there is a lot of bronze on this model. Take your time, go around the model and highlight all the edges and raised points. And you've probably guessed it, we are going to do some more highlighting. This time it's all the metal areas, and I'm using Stormhost Silver. Just do the exact same procedure. Okay, I've finished highlighting with the silver. I've also painted the bolts in his shoulder pads and around his head. Now comes the fun part that involves pizzas and gummy bears. Nah, just kidding, we are still going to highlight. This time it's all the black leather and stuff with Stormwomen fur. When you are pleased with the highlights, we can move on to something else. And now it's time to paint his loincloth. I would like to use a contrast paint for this, but I'll start by giving it a base coat of Wraithbone. And please make sure that the Wraithbone is completely dry before heading on to the next step. You might need a couple of layers of this to cover perfectly. And just be careful not to hit the areas we've already painted. I ended up giving it 2 coats of Wraithbone. I also painted the rope that is around his waist. It's kind of hard to see, but there it is. So next I'm going to use a contrast paint, and I'm using Griff Charger Grey. I'm taking it directly from the pot and just painting it all over the cloth piece. If you want a stronger result, just add 2 coats, but please let the first one dry. I ended up with a single coat of the contrast paint. Next up I'm adding a highlight, because we miss doing those, don't we? And I'm using Corex White, and I'm still working on the cloth. It's much easier if you use the side of your brush. Just like this. And I'd say that's the cloth completed. Next I'm going back to Wraithbone, and I am repainting the rope, so we are ready to use another contrast paint on this one. So just carefully base coat it with Wraithbone, and be careful not to hit the cloth we just painted. With the Wraithbone dry, I'm adding a contrast of Maggot's Purple. Just like before, a single coat should be enough, and I'm using it directly from the pot. And once again, be careful not to hit the cloth. And to finish off the rope, I'm adding a final highlight of Genestealer Purple. Just very small highlights. The next thing I want to paint is all these strange tubes that are growing out of him, out of his backside, his head, his shoulder pad, and also in between here. And also there is a fly, big fly, trying to crawl its way through his armor right here. First I'm going to base coat it all with Wraithbone, because as you guessed, we are going to use a contrast paint later. With the Wraithbone dry, we can now add a contrast paint, and you can really use any colorful paint that you want to. I'm going for Sigil Burgundy. And yes, we are going to highlight it afterwards. As usual, just be careful not to hit the areas you've already painted. The contrast paint is dry, and we now have a stark, contrast between all that green armor and those pipes. And as promised, I'm now adding a highlight, and I'm using Slaanesh Grey for this purpose. Just around the edges of these tubes. And voila! At this stage I would like to paint any tentacles I can find, and on this particular model I can only find one, and that's this one crawling out of his foot right here. So I'm returning once more to Wraithbone because I would like to use a contrast paint afterwards, and just base coat it in Wraithbone. Okay, the contrast paint I'm going for here is Iyanden Yellow. I would use this over all the tentacles if there was more than just this one. When the contrast paint is dry, I'm adding a very subtle watered down highlight of Flashgit's Yellow. And as always, it's easier to use the side of the brush. Run it straight down the middle here. Like so. Next up is this large Nurgle symbol on his belly, and also all the slime that's dripping around him. There is something right here and something emitting from his helmet. I'm sure those are not salty tears. And well, hidden around the model there are some slime dripping. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is base coat it all with Vulcan Green. Just be careful and make a good coat, and if you need to, then just apply 2 coats instead of just 1. I finished base coating the Nurgle symbol and the slime, and before I continue I should mention that I did find another tentacle under his elbow here, so I hurried up and painted that off cam. The next step is to add some dots to all the slime and the Nurgle symbol, and I'm using mood green for this. Just add a dot somewhere where you want it to be, like so. You can round it out a bit more, I suppose. Like so. Also on the slime, I am doing this. And just go around all over the model once more and add these dots to the slime and the Nurgle symbol. Once we are finished with the mood green, we are going back to Flashgit's yellow. And we're doing the exact same thing again, but this time I am painting within the mood green we just painted. So I've grabbed a smaller brush and well, I'm dotting away once more. Like so. Following that, I would like to add a glaze, and for that I'm using mood green once again. I'm taking 5 parts lime and medium and 1 small drop of mood green and mixing it all together. It might be hard to see this on the camera, but I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'll just clean my brush and take one more very small amount of mood green and add it to our mix here, just like so. And I'm going to apply it like a layer, so I'll paint it all over, but I'll try to avoid the recesses, but it might be a bit difficult because this is runny. But this should tone down the yellow a bit and well, make all the colors look more combined. So just add it all over, except the recesses. When the glaze is dry, you could well say that was that and leave the colors as they are. But I would like to take this one step further. I'm using this bile color from Green Stuff World. I'm just adding a little bit to my palette, like so. And then I'm going to thin it down with some water, like so. Then I'm going to paint it all over the slime and the Nurgle symbol. This will give it a sickly green appearance, but also make it glossy, look like it's wet. And I do prefer that. So just apply it here. The reason I'm thinning it down is so we can have a transparent result, so we can see the work we've already done. But apply this and let it dry and we have a nice shiny effect. Or should I say gross? I don't know. Okay, there is no way around it anymore. It's time to do the shoulder pads. And a color I like to use is this ivory color from AK Interactive. Now please notice that this is a lac based instead of acrylic based paint, which means that it can't be mixed with water. I'll give you a quick demonstration here. Seems normal so far. Now I just add a little water. As you can see, it kind of curls up and gets all mustard-like. This I cannot work with. So instead I'm using something else. Give me one moment. I have this high compatibility thinner from AK Interactive as well. But please notice this is flammable. So if you're a youngling, please get an adult to do this instead. Or if you insist on using Citadel paint, you can use a palette witch flesh for this. But other than that, it's the same procedure. I'm taking a little bit of this paint, like so. And then I'm going to thin it down with this thinner. Much better. And what I want to do at this stage is just base coat the entirety of the shoulder pads. If you are painting more than one model, I would vary between painting one or both shoulder pads, but in this case I'm painting both of them. So just be careful not to hit the areas we've already painted, and make sure it's a solid, even coat. You might need 2 or maybe even 3 coats of this. Just be gentle. When the base coat is dry, it's time to add a shade, and I'm using a 1-to-1 mix of Lahmian Medium and Seraphim Sepia. And I'm painting this all over the shoulder pad. When the shade is dry, I'm creating a glaze with Mournfang Brown. I have 5 drops of Lahmian Medium on my palette, and I'm just taking a little bit of Mournfang Brown and add it to the mix. And what I want to do here is paint it on the sides, and the sides only, because that's where I want it to be a bit darker. The light would catch the center of the shoulder pad, so I need those to be lighter. Yes, this is the consistency we're looking for. So, just paint it around the edges to make it dirty and dark. Make sure it's completely dry before we head on to the next stage. Once the glaze is dry, I am shading once more, again with the Seraphim Sepia. And this time I'm just taking it straight from the pot. And just all over the shoulder pads. And following that, I'm going back to my base color and we'll do a little bit of highlighting. Just slightly highlighting where there's cracks, where the horn is coming out, and there's this little hole here. I'll just highlight those and call the shoulder pad done. There really is only one thing left on this model that I haven't painted, and that is those little, well, I'm tempted to call them pox marks or something like that. And I would like to use a contrast paint here. So I'm starting with a base coat of Grey Seer. These are scattered around the model. There are some up here and on his shoulder pad, and well, I think that's it, but I'm going to have a look around. But yeah, as I said, base coated with the Grey Seer. And as always, be careful not to hit the areas we've already painted. With the Grey Seer dry, I'm going for a contrast paint, and I'm going once more for Yanden Yellow. I'm just taking it straight from the pot and carefully applying it over the areas we just painted in Grey Seer. When the Yanden yellow is dry, we could call this model complete, or at least fully painted, except the base of course. But now it's time to get a little bit more creative. I would like to add some rust and some verdigris, and I'm starting with the rust. Now this product is also flammable, I just want to mention that. And it really needs to be shaken very well, so here we go. I've already shaken this, but if you're planning to use an varnish on your model, do it now, because this product is semi-permanent, which means that if it comes in contact with something that's wet, it will reactivate. So yeah, varnish your model now if you want to. But I'm not going to do that, I'm going to add some rust. And I can apply this however I would like to. It dries very fast, I would say within 3 or 4 minutes. I'll just get a little on my brush here and add it wherever I want. Now I'll just, for demonstration purposes, add some rust right here. I know there's probably someone out there watching saying, well, this kind of armor can't rust. And my response to that is, well, if the God of Chaos can make a horn go through his shoulder pad and make a chew screw out of his head, I'm sure he can make his armor rust as well. But I've just added this, oops, and also here, apparently. And I'll just let it dry and I'll be right back. It took, well, maybe a minute, and now it seems to be pretty dry. So next I'm going to dampen my brush and wipe off the excessive water and just pull it down in downward motions. This will reactivate the rust and I can push it around however I want. And it will be pretty thin, so you can add several coats if you want a darker coat of rust. So I'll just move it up and around, and you can do this, well, essentially forever, because as I said, it's semi-permanent. So have fun with this, use as little or as much as you want, or don't use any of it at all if you don't like it, but I'm going to apply a little bit of rust around this model before we go on to do the exact same thing with the verdigris. Just like that. Well, I certainly enjoy working with this product. I think it's the best rust effect there is around. So yeah, I've added some rust here and there, and as I said, if you don't like the result, just add some water and you can move it around however you wish. So it's really that simple. Next I'm going to use some verdigris on all the bronze areas, or well, the bronze areas I would prefer to have some verdigris on it. And I'll add it to places where it would naturally sit, such as around the bolts here, and well, in crevices and corners, and well, however you like really. So I'm just going to do that and be right back. And with the rust and verdigris applied, I will call this model finished. Now some of you might have noticed there is a hole in the base here, and that's for a nurgling. So I'm going to paint that up next. And you can really paint this however you would like, but I find it most disturbing when it looks like some pale human flesh. So that's why I've added some Rakhar flesh on my palette. Now just adding a complete base coat of this color. You might need more than one coat. When the base coat is completely dry, I'll add a shade of Raglan Flesh Shade. Just all over once more. And the shade is now pretty much as dry as my humor. So next up I'm adding a layer of Palette Witch Flesh. Just avoid all the recesses and crevices and yeah, add a thin layer of this. The layering is complete, so now I'm going to add a very light dry brush of Praxity White. So get a little bit of paint on your small dry brush, wipe most of it off on a tissue. Like so, and then just gently dry brush it all over to catch those raised areas. Really make it pop. This particular Nurgling is a cheeky little fellow. His tongue is sticking out of his mouth. So I'm going to pick that up with some Screamer Pink. I'll add it as a base coat. And to finish off the tongue, I'm adding a dot of pink horror. You could call it a highlight, but it's so small, so it's just a dot practically. Like so. Now all that's left on this model is some poxmark and some slime and tubes, and well, I'm going to paint those exactly as I did on the Plague Marine, so I'm not going to go over it here. But after that I'm ready to add this to the base, once I've finished creating the base, and I'm going for a Nurgle team, of course.
This particular Plague Marine is ready to see some action, or at the very least give your enemies a cold they'll never forget. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please share your work on Instagram if you are following along. I would love to see your work. And with that said, thank you for watching and happy painting.